Hey beautiful, thank you for stopping by the channel today. My name is Chisom. On today's video, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful shirt dress with collar and belt. This is so easy to make and is beginners friendly. If this looks like something you're interested in learning, keep on watching to the end of this video and let's dive straight into the tutorial. So right now my fabric is folded into 4 already. All right, now here I have 4 folds. This closed part is going to be the center back. The center back is going to be on fold, while this open side is going to be the center front. There I have my button allowance of 3 inches, and the length I'm working with is the lengthwise of this material, which is 60 inches. Okay, now to proceed, I'll go ahead and rule a starting line at the top, which will serve as a guide for my measurement taking. So I'll place my tape on that line and mark out my horizontal measurements. First, I am going to put my shoulder to armhole measurement, my shoulder to waist, and my shoulder to hip, and the other remaining part is going to be the full length of this dress. So I'll simply go ahead and make the points I have into straight lines. So now I have my shoulder line, my armhole line, my waistline, and my hip line right here. I'm really sorry if you're not seeing these marks I have clearly. I actually tried my best for this marks to show. I don't know why it's not showing. So from the folded center back, I will measure my neck width and my neck depth. Neck width I'm working with is 3 inches, and neck depth for the front is 3 inches, and for the back is 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and curve out my neckline with my curve ruler. After curving out the neck area, I'll still place my tape from the center back and measure my shoulder divide by 2 plus ½ inch for sewing allowance. I'll place the same figure on the chest line and I'll make that into a straight line. Having done this, I am going to measure my bust circumference divide by 4 on the chest line, and I am going to be adding extra 1 inch for ease. 1 inch for ease because it is not a fitted dress. It's a bit free, so I am adding 1 inch for ease and 1½ inch for sewing allowance. Now I'll move over to the waistline. I'll still mark my waist divide by 4 plus 1 inch for ease and 1½ inch for sewing allowance. So now I'm going to connect from the bust area to the waist with a slight curve. So I'm going to move my material upwards so that you'll be able to see what I am doing clearly. Now on the hip line, I am going to measure my hip circumference divide by 4 plus 1 inch for ease and 1½ inch for sewing allowance, just like I did for the bust and the waist area. Then I'll connect from the hip to the waist. Now from the hip line, I'm going to connect it all the way to the end of the fabric with a straight ruler. So next, I'm going to be slanting my shoulder by 1 inch. After slanting by 1 inch, I'm going to be marking out ½ inch for joining allowance. After slanting my shoulder, I'll simply use my armhole curve and place it on the armhole area and curve out my armhole just like I am doing right now. Now I'll go ahead and cut out following the marks I have on my fabric, starting from the shoulder slope allowance, and I'll cut out the back neckline first. Please ensure you cut out the back neckline first before you go ahead and trim out the front neckline so you won't end up having a wide neckline. At this point, if you're not part of my growing community, kindly hit the subscribe button, turn on notification bell so you'll be the first to get notified whenever I post a new video. Also, if you feel there is a tutorial you want to see up on my channel, I'll be glad to read in the comment section. Next thing I did after cutting out was to go ahead and iron the button allowance down. I simply folded it 1 inch and 1 inch and pressed it down with my iron. I also put interfacing. I added light tissue gum on that space for button so that it will help keep the fabric in place, because this is a silk fabric, so that is why I added very light tissue gum. This tissue gum I added is going to give it structure. It's going to make the button place to come out very well. Okay, if you can handle the fabric you're working with, you can simply go ahead and fold this into the way I just did right now and top stitch. So what I'm going to do next is to place it the way I have ironed it down, and I'll go ahead and top stitch on both sides of the button allowance. I'll top stitch on the open part and I'll top stitch also on the tip. Okay, I'll top stitch on both sides of this button allowance just to keep it in place. So I've gone ahead to top stitch on the button space all the way from the top to the bottom, just to keep this space in place. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'll get the back piece and place on the two front pieces like I am doing right now. So I'll simply head over to the sewing machine and I'll stitch close the shoulder area first. After stitching close the shoulder area, then I'll stitch close the sides and I'll be right back. After stitching close the shoulder and the sides, this is how it's looking like at this point. I also went ahead to iron this properly. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to measure around the neck area. I'll simply open up the fabric like so, and I'll take my tape from one center front round to the end of the other center front, just to know the exact figure I'll be using to draft my collar. So this soft collar gum is what I'll be using to draft the collar, because this is exactly what I'll be adding to the collar to make it stand firm. Alright, so we'll be drafting the collar on this gum. So first things first, I'll go ahead and roll a guideline on the bottom part of this collar stay. Please note that this collar stay is on fold, so by the time I open it up, it will give me the complete round neck measurements I am working with. Now from the center back, I will indicate the midpoint, and on that midpoint is where the front is going to stop. Now on that center front, from the straight line I marked there, I will go up by 1 inch, and I'm going to take the 1 inch mark to meet the midpoint mark I have there with a slight curve. This is because the neckline is not straight. As we all know, the neck area is curvy, so by doing this, it will help the collar to relax on the neckline area. Now I'm going to mark how high I want my collar stand to be. I want my collar stand to be 1.25 inches. So from the curvy part I have there, I will measure 1.25 inches all the way from the front to the back. Okay, I'm measuring from the curvy area, not the straight area down. We are no more working with the area that is down. Now I will measure 1.25 all the way to the center back. Now this is going to be my collar stand, which is also, this can also serve as your mandarin collar, or if you want to just have a turtleneck collar. All right, now I am going to curve out the collar stand by 1 inch. I went in by 1 inch, and I am going to curve it to meet the down part. I am not so good with curving, but I'm trying my best. Okay, so this is all there is to the collar stand. On the center back from the collar stand height, I will go up by 1 inch, and on the center front I will come in by 1 inch. This is how much I want the collar stand to show after I have attached the collar fall. All right, now I'm going to connect the 2 points together with the slight curve ruler I have. I'll connect from the 1 inch I came in and the 1 inch I went up. I'll connect the 2 points together with a slight curve ruler, just like I am doing right now. Now on that mark, I am going to determine the height of my collar fall, and for that I am using 1.5 inches. I'm going to measure from the straight line down to the collar height point I have to know how much I have there. I have 4 inches. Now I'll move over to the center front and I'll measure from the straight line to 5 inches. This is to enable the front area to point out very well. And I am going to connect the sharp point center front to meet the 1 inch mark I went in by on the collar stand. So we are done with the drafting part. I am simply going to cut the shape out. You can carefully watch the areas that I am cutting out, just in case you're confused which part is which part. All right, so here is the collar fall. Okay, so I'll go ahead and use this to cut out my fabric. So right now I have used the collar stitch to cut out on fabric. I have 2 pieces. I'll use one as the lining for the fabric. Okay, so the next thing I am going to do is to close the upper part of the collar fall. I'll stitch close the upper part and the side. Just the area I am pointing now is where I'll go ahead and close, leaving the down part open. So I'll simply head over to my sewing machine and stitch close the area I am pointing out right now. After stitching, I'm going to trim off the excess allowance I have on the parts that I have stitched close. Then I'll go ahead and turn it out. After turning it out, I'll go ahead and put the collar fall in between the collar stand. Please note that I am putting it on the upper part of the collar stand, not the part that will be attached to the neckline. So I'm just making sure that the inches I have on the right is the same I have on the left, just to get a balance. Okay, so in other words, make sure you're placing this exactly at the middle of the collar stand. So after I am sure that I've placed it right, I'll go ahead and secure it with the pins to make sure it stays in place while I am stitching it down. So right now I'll simply head over to the sewing machine and stitch close the upper part and the sides, leaving only the lower part open. I'll close the top and the sides, leaving just the lower part open, and I'll be right back. So I'm done stitching it right now. I'll go ahead and turn it to the right side. Now I'm going to give this a good press before going ahead to attach it to the neckline area. Now I'm done ironing. While I was ironing, I tucked in the 1/2 inch that will be used to join it to the neckline. I tucked it in and ironed it flat. This way is going to help me to just fix it inside fix the neckline in between the collar and top stitch. So what I am going to do is get the collar, and I'll be tucking in the neckline area by ½ inch and top stitching on the go, just to give it a neat finish. Now I'm done fixing the collar to the neckline area, and this is what it's looking like. You can tell this is coming out really beautiful, and the collar is really bold, just the way I wanted it. Now the next thing is to go ahead and fix the sleeve to the armhole area. After fixing the sleeve, I'll go ahead and hem the lower part. I will simply fold it in half and half and top stitch, and after that we'll work on the belt. So here is the belt I cut out. The length of this belt is more than ×2. I have 76 inches length, and the width on fold is 4 inches. This is actually on fold right now. I just ironed it down so it will stay in place. I actually added light tissue gum to this just to give it a little bit of structure. I'll simply fold this into 2, and on the mid part I will measure 3 inches, and I'm going to take that mark I made there to meet the end part of the belt I cut out, just to give the tip a sharp edge. Now I'll go ahead and trim it off. Now I'm going to stitch it close. I'll stitch close the tip first, and I'll run thread all through from the beginning, and when I get to somewhere along the middle, I'll leave a space and move over to the other part and start stitching. And when I get close to the other part I left open, I will leave it, and that will be where I am going to turn out the belt from. So now I'm done stitching it, and this is the space I left to turn out the 2 sides. I'm going to go ahead and turn this out. After turning it out, I am going to iron this to lay flat. So now I am done ironing, and this is how nice and ready the belt is looking. The only thing left is I'll go ahead and run a stitch to close the open part, and this is so easy to do. I'll just head over to the sewing machine and run a stitch on top of it, and the belt is ready. Now back to our dress. Our dress is 99% ready. Okay, the only thing left is to fix the buttonhole and attach the buttons, which I don't have machine for fixing the buttonholes right now. So I'll simply take this to the people that are doing it in the market, and they will do it for me, after which I'll go ahead and fix the buttons. So after I was done, here is the result of the final look, and this has brought us to the end of today's video. If you found this video helpful, kindly give this video a thumbs up. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends and family, and we'll see you again in my next video. Bye.